So, welcome at PIN conference. Welcome in this panel called Pinocchio. No one knows what login meant by that name, but we will try to fulfill it somehow. To be honest, this is my favorite conference because I started my super career as moderator here a few years ago when Login called me in the morning and he said, Michal, please come quickly to the venue because the original moderator ended after some street fight in hospital and we need you and please do the panel. And I said, but I don't know anything about it. And he said, just speak with them like in the pub. So since then, I have this advice always in my mind when I'm starting moderating, because it's not easy, mainly if I have such a great panelists like you, because when you will check the biographies of this man, you will be amazed when they started, what they did in their life, what they do and what they will do. So I'm really honored to be moderator of this panel with these great people. So at the beginning, please try to introduce yourself in short version, because if I will start with you or with you, you can speak about yourself 1 hour. What would be quite nice for me as a moderator. But anyway, please start with introducing yourself. My name is Michal, I'm from Slovakia, Pohoda Festival. So start.
Okay. Good to be here. My name's Stephen Budd. I'm from London. I'm a music manager, managing artists for many years, many years, and record producers and songwriters. I helped start some festivals in India and across Africa and in the UK. Also involved in a festival in Korea that myself and Martin got involved with. And I was the chairman of the Music Managers Forum, which is the big trade association in the UK for artist managers. And I do a few other things like work with Cooking Vinyl Records as a A&R consultant and different things.
Okay, Martin.
Hi there. So I'm Martin, also from the UK. We both got in at 3 o'clock this morning.
We did.
So if we fall asleep, you'll understand why. So mainly, well, I've been involved in the industry for over 40 years, as has Steve. Primarily in live music. I started off doing actually started off a record label magazine, then co-promoted the first WOMAD festival with Peter Gabriel, lots of shitload of money, we can talk about it later on if you like. Became an agent, then became a manager. I've been working with Glastonbury for decades now. And co-founded The Great Escape. So I'm co-founded NH7 in India with Stephen. Set up the DMZ Peace Train Festival. Worked with Music Cities Convention, which is a worldwide thing about how you use music in countries and cities. Though there's probably more. I'm now, as of May, I'm a local councillor. And I'm supposed to be finishing off my autobiography, but I've been saying that for the last year. So,
thanks a lot for introducing us like that. Legend, I don't believe, but my name's Carl Martin. I've been involved in this business since '84, at which point I was actually getting on a bit anyway. And I've been involved mainly with venues, arenas and stadia, all around Europe, in the Middle East and out in the Far East. I now live in Budapest, although I'm from the UK, from England originally. I have a young lady and a family there, and I'd worked in Budapest since 2000. So I've been lucky. I've worked in the West and the East of Europe, as well as outside. I've been involved with festivals, I've been involved with access control and cashless. I've done Siteco work. I'm involved with the ILMC production meeting. I've been running that for the last 14 years. And I now run my own conference in Budapest, the Event Production Forum East, which is where Login and I met when we had a dinosaur panel together, which is why I'm here today, I'm told. So, thank you.
Great, great, great. So we will see the perspective from stage or from a booking, managing part of the music business, also from the backstage, from venue perspective, design perspective, architecture, etc. What is really great to speak about it in Skopje, which is really nice designed. We can speak about it later. But let's start with artists, because we should bring some tricks how to get to your festivals, to your roster, to your studio, somewhere. Did you book some Macedonian artists before?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
great.
yet, but the opportunity might exist after tomorrow. You know, we'll see. Looking forward very much to seeing the artists coming and playing. And, you know, from the little bit of research I've done and listening to some of the music that was sent through, there's some interesting stuff, so it's going to be interesting.
What about you, Martin? Glastonbury is a huge festival with long history. Did you have some Macedonian artists playing Glastonbury?
I don't think so, but I mean, bear in mind that Glastonbury has about 30 stages, so some are very small. And I don't think we've had a Macedonian act at the Great Escape, which is more relevant, frankly, to the artists playing here, because obviously we like to have as many countries in the world represented at that event. And also our audience at the Great Escape wants to see acts from international, and the business people want to see acts from different countries. So so I will try and see every band here, actually, because I mean, I love it when everyone's in the same venue. And I've checked out, I mean, there's about 4 of the videos I saw that I'm actually quite impressed with. So it's really my job here is to see, well, A, whether they're good enough to play the great, because we're quite fussy, but also if we think it work in primarily the Anglo market, because that's what we're seeing as the gateway. And just so you know, one of the main features of the Great Escape, which is, we argue with Eurosonic, which is the bigger event. What we do have is we have an awful lot of agents. We have something like 500 agents come to the Great Escape. So that's, for a lot of bands, you know, that's the primary reason for playing that event, is hopefully to get a UK-based agent.
And we can maybe make it bigger. Like, did you work or did you book some artists from Balkan, from ex-Yugoslavia, let's say?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Because there is I think that
normally we work with we work quite closely with export offices, so a lot depends on how proactive they are.
Yes, I don't know if they have export office in Macedonia. Did he come to the stage because people? Okay, so I can give you a microphone because people can't hear.
So from ex-Yugoslavia bands, and Toko from Slovenia played 2015, and then we have Dubioza Collective, Login was there, and Dubioza Collective played different areas of Glastonbury, so they had the night's performance in a Shangri-La, it's a party area of Glastonbury, and then during the afternoon they played Avalon stage, which is also a bigger stage, so actually there were some ex-Yugoslavian bands over there, but it's too big and too much. So.
Okay, great. So you had some, at least, because I'm asking this because you are known by traveling around the world, doing things in India, Korea, Africa, and sometimes I think that it would be maybe good sometimes to go to, for example, ex-Yugoslavia and to create something like Balkan Express. You know when I'm aiming, because Steven is author of African Express, one of the greatest music projects in the world. I like it very much. It's something really unique. And I think that it would be fantastic and helpful if you will come one day to Eastern Europe and to do something like Eastern European Express.
Well, you know, one of the nicest things about being in the music business and being on the creative side of it in terms of programming and stuff like that is being allowed to go and explore music in areas that you wouldn't normally go to, and then try and link those artists up with artists that you work with on a day-by-day basis from the UK or USA, and get people to collaborate and create something new. Africa Express is about collaboration and putting artists from the more out there African countries together with Western artists and seeing what you create. I mean, we started in 2006 when we went to Mali, and we took over, as an experiment, we took over 10 artists: Martha Wainwright, Damon Albarn, Fatboy Slim, a whole bunch of other people out to Mali, to Bamako, and got them to work with local artists there. But those were some amazing local artists: Salif Keita, people like that, Umu Sangare, and all these wonderful, wonderful artists from Mali. Mali has a huge culture. And then, we ended up, putting on shows at Glastonbury and around the world, where those collaborations that we've worked on in the Congo, in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Ethiopia, we bring those people over, and we may have made an album already, or we've made a film, and we try and create something a bit special and a bit different every time. We're not trying to do the same thing again and again. We're trying to do something different every time. So the possibility of coming out to the Balkan area, finding musicians, getting them to collaborate with musicians from the UK, from the USA, yeah, sure. If there's some crazy internet billionaire who wants to put up some money to help us do that, give me a call, I'm there.
Great. And what was the push for you to start with African Express?
Say again?
How did you end it in Mali in 2006?
Okay, so, I mean, how Africa Express started was as a reaction against something. And what that was the Live 8 event, which happened in London and America and across the world, which was a good idea. It was there to try and persuade governments to drop the debt owed by African countries, which was effectively stifling their growth. So they put on a big series of concerts with Madonna, Pink Floyd, The Who, everybody in 2005. But the problem was, this was about Africa, and there were no African artists playing. It was embarrassing. And at that point, a few of us who love music from Africa got together, myself, Damon Albarn, Ian Birrell, who was the editor of the Independent newspaper at the time, and various other people got together, and we started talking about what can we do to change the perception of African music. And we figured that the way to do that was to get Western artists to collaborate with African artists, so that the audience, if you're a fan of Beyonce, right, and you see that Beyonce is performing with some artist that you've never heard of, but you're a crazy fan of Beyonce, you're going to go and look at that artist and check that artist out, and maybe you become a fan of that artist too. So that was our idea, trying to take African music out of the world music box that it had been kind of put in, World music, the concept, was a good concept for a period because it drew attention to music from around the globe. But then it became a little bit self-defeating, the title world music. So we wanted to change that and bring African music particularly, because that was our love, to a much younger audience, right? So we figured if we could put like young Western musicians who are really interesting, creative, together with young African musicians, we can bring a new audience to the African musicians. And we thought we'd experiment by going to Mali, because Damon Albarn had been out in Mali and he'd made some connections there. He'd made a recording out there and he knew some people. So we went out purely as an experiment to see if it would work, putting Western artists together with African artists. Because we didn't know, and we didn't know what our plan was. Originally, we were planning to put on a big show in Hyde Park, and Peter Gabriel gave us some money towards that. Robert Plant gave us some money towards that. Chris Blackwell gave us some money towards that. But then we changed the whole thing around, and it became much more of a artist collaborations, creative unit, so that we could seed collaborations, and we would take artists from the UK and America out to the Congo. We'd take De La Soul and Massive Attack and younger artists as well, and get them to experience what it was like out there and working with musicians in very rudimentary conditions. And, you know, there was nothing sort of glamorous about this. We're putting people into really one-star hotels, you know, with one sheet, you know, and maybe a shower that worked, you know. So it really is a leveling situation, bringing everybody together, everybody having to eat the local food and, you know, go in and just do it for the love of music. Nobody getting paid. None of the artists are paid. The Western artists. The African artists are paid. The Western artists are not paid. And the idea is that we would create these collaborations, try and get them released on records, which we've released maybe 5 albums now, make films about it, where we've made two movies, and put on shows. And we put on maybe 20 or so shows in the UK, Spain, France, all over Europe. Our biggest event that we put on, I think, well, we've put on a few big ones, was in 2012, as part of the Olympics. We took a train and created a private train, and on that train we built rehearsal rooms and a recording studio, and we drove that train around the UK for a week, and we did 7 shows in 7 days with Paul McCartney, John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, the Libertines, but with Amadou and Mariam, Fatoumata Diawara, Rokia Traore, Tony Allen, and it was absolutely fucking magical, you know. And those are the kind of things that we like to do, you know. If the pandemic hadn't happened, we would have been on a riverboat going up the Mississippi on a steam paddler with Jack White and Arcade Fire and Bubba Mal and Salif Keita and various other people doing shows as we go up. So it's those kind of things that we try to create.
It's absolutely amazing, and I like this idea, and I also like very much when you use power of art and the power of your position for something as this, for something great, for something what is moving the society somewhere to more tolerant and to more nice society. So I missed it a little bit in when the Brexit happened. I missed it. I think that the music scene in the UK was too silent. And now we can see it in emails that everyone is asking, oh, but who will deal with visa costs, who will deal with carnet costs, blah, 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 blah. So I know that Glastonbury was involved, and I think that it was the strongest voice of music scene that Glastonbury said was pro-in, like against Brexit. What do you think? Why the musicians were so, like...
Well, no, I think there were a lot of musicians were against Brexit. I mean, you'll find virtually very few people in the music industry.
Try and find any musicians who are for Brexit. I don't think you can.
But
there were no something like big shows in Hyde Park or big tours.
I think part of the problem was the anti-Brexit campaign was so badly run that they never really utilised.
Sorry to interrupt, Mike, but everybody thought that Brexit was impossible. We didn't think it was going to happen. On the morning of the vote, when it came in,
which is Glastonbury
morning, we had Africa Express as the opening show on the Pyramid stage, right? At 6 o'clock in the morning, we woke up, turned on the TV, Brexit, voted. We were with 50 Syrian musicians that we'd brought together, and we were finishing a tour, Africa Express tour, African musicians with Syrian musicians, and we were going to go and play the Pyramid stage. 6 o'clock in the morning, we came out of our rooms, went, what the living fuck has just happened, right? Because you have to remember that vote was 51% yes, 49% no. And we came out, we went, what the fuck has happened? And the Syrians who've just arrived in the UK are like, oh, this is amazing, look at this, England, fantastic, you know. And all the English guys were like, we sat there like, wow. And we had to take everybody onto the stage at Glastonbury, opening the Pyramid stage, and Damon Albarn walked up to the mic and he said, democracy has failed us, you know? And that was the headline the next morning in some of the newspapers, you know? And that was the connection between kind of Glastonbury and you know, that moment, because it happened on the opening day of Glastonbury.
The other thing is, the current government has gone for this really hard version of Brexit, which was never part of the initial argument. In fact, the most famous politician said, well, we won't be leaving the single market. Yeah, and of course that's all.
50% of the people who voted for Brexit, well, maybe 30% of the people who voted for Brexit now regret it bitterly.
I'm asking this because Macedonia is trying to become a member of European Union. I still hope that they are trying and they will become a member, because I think that it's the best project in European history. So I'm very sorry that you left.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
It's the worst fucking mistake, right, that any government in my lifetime has ever undertaken. The worst mistake.
Yes, I think so. From my perspective, the art scene was too silent, but I'm not living in the UK. So, and as you said, maybe you were not expecting that. Carl, I will jump to you later a little bit, but I have few more questions to these two guys. In the description of the panel, there is like, we should speak about some tricks how to become for example, to play Glastonbury or any of your festivals, because you have one festival, you have festival in Korea, I don't know if you continue with that, you have festival in India, etc., etc. And I can tell you one trick which worked at our festival. I booked band Las Alegres Ambulancias de Palenque, maybe you know them, it's legendary, Las Alegres Ambulancias de Palenque, it's from Colombia, and it's legendary band created by all generations of musicians, led by, in that time, by 4 80-year-old women, and I was in love with them because it was a really unique band. And when I booked it with an agent called Javier, be careful with you when you will see the name Javier in your inbox. And he said, yes, fantastic, amazing, da, 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 da. And during the festival, I sent the whole office there. Hey, people, run there. This will be the best band we have in this year's lineup. And they came back and they were like, oh, you changed your taste. It was not 4 women, it was 1 girl and as a lead singer. Not 80 years old, she was 20, 25, and the band was not from South America. They looked too European, and they were singing in Italian, and I said, no way. So I was running there, and I saw band like you can see in the front of shopping malls, this kind of very basic, boring, world music, little bit pop, absolutely horrible band.
Oh shit.
And I wrote email to Javier, we booked Las Alegres Ambulancias de Palenque, and totally different band appeared on stage. And he said, yes, they couldn't come, so I sent you my friends from Italy. And I said, shit. And I said, no way. And it ended with I started to argue with him that, okay, but we wanted to fly band from Colombia, da, 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 da. It was quite expensive, and now we are paying this money to this unknown, no-name band. And he said, things like this happened, my friend. I'm sorry, I just wanted to save your slot, so I sent you my friends from Italy. And I said, okay, but I have to inform about this some people and blah, blah. And he said, if you will start to fight with me, you will have big problems, my friend. So it ended in I started to be silent, and I'm not booking with Javier anymore. Why? Maybe as a surprise gig. So if you want to have some nice...
Just going to make a note. Javier, what's his name?
Javier, okay. Yeah. So did something like this happen?
That's career suicide. Imagine other festival bookers hear this. Nobody's going to want to deal with that person.
Of course, but I to be honest, I was a little bit scared when I saw some... Oh, but I'm speaking openly about it now. You can see it. Javier, greetings to Javier. And another story, very similar. This year we asked few clubs to book lineup for us, and I had veto right, and we booked artist called Developer, and I checked him, and it was German techno DJ, fantastic, and I said, wow, what a good taste the people have, fantastic, great. And during the festival, or 3 days before the festival, one friend asked me, why you are booking such horrible artists? And I said, we are not booking them, they're curated by one club, and I think that it's amazing artists. And he said, yes, really? And he sent me a link, and I was totally scared because it was another developer. and so there are two artists with the same name, and one is, I'm sorry, developer, that I'm saying this, but one was great DJ, and the second one was horrible artist, and he played our festival, so he will have it in his bio till the end of our lives. So, do you have some stories
That's why
like
you
this?
booked me to play DJ at your festival.
I expected someone totally different. Than you are.
It was me.
Yes, it was you.
I only made one cock-up like that in all these years, and that was, and I can't remember the name of the band, but they were the Black something, and it was quite a few years ago, but it was a time when the Black Keys and there was all these pretty cool bands
Black Country Road,
with the Black
ladies.
something or other, and I picked the wrong one. So, because normally the crew around here, they always compliment, genuinely compliment each year. On this is the John Peel stage, which is kind of like newer acts. And I said, yeah, it was really good. Apart from it was that really shit band on it. So it was 3 o'clock, and I said, so I had to own up to that one. We had a bad situation, Steve and I, with NH7 in India. VJ, who used to run it, was it Nile Rodgers, I think? He booked Nile Rodgers through this Australian guy who claimed to represent Nile for, outside of Europe and America, and sort of did, and VJ had to pay like 50,000 quid up front, I think it was, which is a lot of money for India. And basically, Niall didn't know anything about the gig, and then the guy refused to pay the money back. So it went to court. I don't know what happened in the end of the court thing, but obviously that guy never worked again in the music industry, because VJ was very well respected in so all the big American agencies and things. He just got blanked all over the world. And it was just really outrageous. I mean, it was effectively it's corruption, really. Certainly gross incompetence, yeah.
What the artist should have to play Glastonbury? What is something like a minimum the artist must have when they want to play your festival?
Well, in terms of the main stages, obviously, a pretty large following, because the vast majority of bands in the world want to play Glastonbury. It's almost impossible to get on many of the main stages if you don't have a recognised agent, which doesn't have to be a UK agent, but it's definitely somebody who's known and respected in the industry, because we get too many applications, if you like. So we rely on the good agents, won't push forward all that. They'll go, okay, these are our priorities for this year, these are the ones you think. Then there's certain agents that you trust their opinion more than others.
How many people are booking Glastonbury?
In terms of there's what is it? There's a sort of 6 main stages. So Nick, Kate, Jaswell Guy, the dance area, about 6 or 7. But they say there are also lots of other smaller stages who don't have very small budgets. But actually, the biggest problem for them is getting hold of passes. Because each pass you give away to a musician that's actually costing the festival 250 quid. So that's always a problem. You sometimes get one of the people running a cool little stage will say, "Oh yeah, I want to book this band," and it's go, "But there's 12 people in that band. You're not going to get 12 passes." Yeah.
Why do they cost? Why do the passes cost money?
Well, because that's a ticket we can't sell.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's part of the...
Yeah, the overall, because they are very, very strict on counting how many people come into Glastonbury.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we even have situations where, even if you've got, like, say, somebody, if a band wants to bring in an orchestra to show, they're even quite iffy about an orchestra turning up in a coach, playing the show and leaving. It all counts to capacity. So literally every ticket we give to a musician or a worker or whatever, that's a ticket we can't sell. And Glastonbury sells out in, half an hour. Yeah.
And the total capacity of Glastonbury is 180,000. 180,000.
But that's got to be the only venue in the UK where they're that strict.
Possibly, but I mean,
they have a lot of eyes on them.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Yeah.
Interesting. And is someone there in Glastonbury team who has veto right? Like who can say no, this artist won't play the festival? If there is someone who has veto right, like if it's like when veto, like if someone who can cancel some artists, like no, this artist won't play the festival.
What, somebody from outside the festival?
No, from your team.
Well, obviously, I mean, Michael and Emily can, do what they like. So normally, I've never known a situation like that. I mean, if if Travis Scott was booked at the moment to play, you'd probably go, that's probably not such a great idea. Yeah.
And do you have phone calls from your friends and like, oh, my son is playing in a band, please take him because we are friends for years now? Do you have this kind of pressure?
Yeah, but I mean, most of my friends and relatives know not to hassle me, particularly for guest list tickets. And so it's like, you do occasionally get that. But, more...
Never hassle Martin for guest list tickets, trust me.
But, I mean, with Great Escape, it's just like, look, if it is someone else, I'll say, look, send me, I'll listen to it, and I'll let Adam know if I think it's any good. Adam books the Great Escape. But the Great Escape is a separate process because you can apply online to play it, particularly for an international act, but which is free. So so we'll do that, and then
By the way, do you pay artists when they play Great Escape, like beginners?
Most of them not. Some do. I would say that awful lot of our international acts get grants normally it's from their export office, or Canada has a slightly different. Canada has loads of money available for their artists, but weirdly enough, it doesn't have an export office. So that's how it works.
And Karl, you now live in Budapest. Do you go to concerts? Do you go to shows, or do you just yes? And what's the ideal venue for you? What the venue must have?
Intimacy and ambience.
Intimacy. You mean also big venues when you?
I do go to the arena and the stadia sometimes, but I prefer to go to smaller clubs and halls. You lose an awful lot unless the artist is brilliant. They lose an awful lot in these big venues.
And what's your favorite Hungarian artist?
I haven't got a clue. I don't know what they're called, Alf. I might just get told there's a great band on, you should go and see them. I'm 74, forgive me. The brain is going. I have problems remembering my kids' names. Don't ask me to remember a band's name.
Okay, which kind of music you are listening to?
Sorry?
Which kind of music you are listening to? Because maybe you are a metal fan.
No,
no?
Actually, metal doesn't do a lot for me. There was one time I did AC/DC in Glasgow, and it was going to be the last concert I'd booked them, and it was the last concert I was ever.
You booked them?
Yeah.
You are also a booker?
I was.
You were?
Back in the days.
And now you are the first person, probably, who are coming to the venue when something will happen, and maybe the last one who is leaving the site, no? Or?
Yeah. But with AC/DC, I was standing there and watched the audience. There were 12,000 punters, and they put the audience lights on, and I stood there listening to and liking what they were playing, thinking, I did this. And then I moved on to another venue. But I like electronic music. I like soul. There isn't a lot of music I don't like. I won't actually go to a heavy metal concert, though. Not unless somebody pays me.
Okay, I said, let's call it Javier's trick, how to get to the festival if you are a boring band. Just you must find interesting agent who is willing to cheat with promoters. Can you give us some advice how to get in the venue? Do you have some advice how to find a way, how to get from? Is it happening? Do the people try to go to festivals, to venues without tickets through fire doors or something like that?
Yeah. Everybody in the world wants to go and go in for free. And because I'm running the venue, I don't want people coming in for nothing. So
when we were kids, we always used to try and find ways to sneak into the venue, you know. And Hammersmith Odeon, which is a big, now called the Hammersmith Apollo in London, literally you used to go round the back and you had a coat hanger, right? And you put the coat hanger through the door and lift up the exit and then just run in. And I did that for Thin Lizzy, the Allman Brothers, I can't even remember who else, but, you know, serious amount of acts when I was about 14, 15 years old. Always go up on a Friday night, you know, wait till the show had started and then get in that way.
Sometimes it's just, you must just make your face like you are the most important professional at the
Well, these
event.
days, having grey hair helps. You just stand there. I'm on the guest list. What do you mean? I'm on the guest... Oh, yeah, all right, come in then.
Yeah,
When you go to enough shows, I don't go to many shows. Well, obviously, don't go to any shows at the moment with COVID. But you know, back in the day when I used to go to gigs like 5-6 nights a week, I know all the security staff. You know, because some would be shows of bands that I was the agent for. But so even if I wasn't the guest list, like the Brits and the Candy guys, they spotted me queuing up. Even if I wasn't on the list, they'd just go, "Oh yeah, coming in."
Yeah.
There
Worst one
is
is
the
Glastonbury.
other
You cannot blag into Glastonbury. You can't. You know, there's people stood outside Glastonbury for 3 days trying to get in.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do it.
When in Glasgow, the chief executive came to my room one day. There was a band on, and he was furious. And he said, "Look, I've just tried to get into the show with a potential client, and your security won't let me." And I said, "No, they're our security. Were you wearing a badge, and did the other one have a pass on?" And he said, "No, but I'm the chief executive." And I said, What did the security guy say to you?" He said, "I don't care who you are, sir. I know who you are, sir, but you haven't got a pass. You're not coming in." I said, "That's what we paid them for."
I've got to tell you a quick little story. So in India, at the festival in India that me and Martin started, called the NH7 Weekender, and, you know, our Indian partner who did everything, fantastic, amazing guy, Vijay Nair. And then I turned up at the festival and saw Vijay, and he's like shaken up. He's been, something really bad has happened, and this is like on the second day. I said, "What the fuck happened to you?" So he said, "Well, we did a deal, right, with the, you know, in order to get the license for the show, right, it's horrendous in India. You know, you know, all sorts of tricks have to be played, okay? But we did a deal with the local cops, and the cops wanted free guests, right? So they wanted 150 free guests. So that was the deal that we did with them. And we did the deal, and then the next night, the chief of police turned up with 400 people and said he wanted to come in with 400 people. And Vijay says, "No, it's 150. That was the deal that we had." And the guy gets out his baton and starts hitting him like this and beat the crap out of him, all right? Anyway, suffice it to say that the next day the chief of police was in jail, right? And the show went ahead, but it was like absolutely horrendous situation, you know, talking about trying to get people in for free.
I ended 1 year in the main stage at Sziget Festival because I was driving my family to the hotel, and I came back and the Blur show was like it was encore. They played the last song and I said, I must see them. So I was just running and I came to backstage and I was like cheering to everyone like, wow. And then I came to the stage and they ended the song and they were cheering to me that, oh, because I was persuading that I'm the biggest man I'm needed to be there. So I said hi to the security guys, hi to stage manager, and then hi to the band, and I was like, woo, I did it. And I didn't have the backstage pass in that year. So sometimes it's possible. You are involved also in creating some Palestinian music expo. How does this work? Do you
Well, again,
also
me and
established,
Martin-
and I think, yes,
Yeah.
you did it together, you established it in 2016 or something like that?
Yeah, I wasn't the founder of it, but I'm on the sort of board of it, you know, the sort of organising committee of it. It was a very interesting... Martin Goldschmidt, who runs Cooking Vinyl Records, that I work with very closely, came up with the idea because he had been to Israel and then got invited across the border into Palestine to go and see and visit some local musicians there. And he realised that there was an incredible source of talent there in Ramallah, in Palestine, and got inspired by the idea of trying to let the rest of the world know that there was this real amazing source of talent. And of course, the problem with the musicians in Palestine is they can't get out of Palestine. They can't even move around Palestine. They can't play in, you know, it's horrendously difficult for them. But there's some really talented people there, and so he got together with a local guy called Abed and came up with the idea of creating Palestine Music Expo. The idea is it's a showcase event, and that he would bring international music business people to Palestine. So you have to fly in to Tel Aviv, and then we get put everybody onto a coach and take them down to the Kalendia checkpoint, which is, you know, an unbelievable place. It's just quite extraordinary. It's like something from a different century. And go through this checkpoint, and suddenly it's like moving from kind of Santa Monica, LA, you know, swimming pools, you know, sunshine, into a different kind of, like you just cross the wall and it's just completely different, you know. But there's some amazing places in Ramallah, and there's actually a really good hotel there where we located the conference, because it's a conference like this and a showcase event, very similar to this event, and do 3 nights of 6 artists per night. Local people can attend as well, so they buy tickets. So the atmosphere is amazing because it's all local people seeing their local artist heroes. And we've brought over an incredible array of A&R people, agents, managers, festival bookers. Some of the artists have ended up getting signed, artists like Dam and various others, getting agents and managing to get visas and go out and tour and you know, create the beginnings of a meaningful career for themselves. So it's obviously a very political scenario, the whole thing, but PMX, Palestine, is a non-political organisation. It's not trying. It's not.
Yeah, I was going to say you missed that because that was, well, it's a very important point. But originally, Martin agreed to go to this Israeli showcase conference festival, and he agreed on the basis that he could go to Ramallah. And then it was afterwards when he came back, he thought, well, you know, what can I do to make this situation better? So that was a thing of like, well, you know, what's your music? Let's create opportunities for Palestinian artists, both the ones who live in the West Bank and in Israel itself. So that was his idea. And right from the start, both he and his Palestinian colleagues said this will only work if it's non-political. So it doesn't make any statements about boycott, redress, and whatever. It's purely, this is about getting Palestine in front of people who can sign them up as an agent or a record label. And also said the professionals who go there they pay for their own flights and things, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And it's, you know, they also get an experience of what it's like, because they also take them out to different parts, to Bethlehem, to Hebron, and you get to see the wider context of what's going on. But it's pretty fascinating, you know. We take them to Banksy's hotel. Banksy has a hotel there, right by the wall. It's famous because it's filled with Banksy artworks. It's an amazing place, but it's famously called the hotel with the worst view in the world. Right? It's like you look onto the wall, you know. But it's pretty intense, you know. It's not for faint-hearted people. The last time we put it on was a couple of years ago, obviously, and I took Brian Eno there. And, of course, Brian Eno is very vocal about what's been happening in the Middle East for many years. And walking through Israeli customs with Brian Eno was quite a moment, you know, because that was potentially very, very tricky, but he came in, we went to Palestine, we had the most amazing 4 or 5 days there, seeing wonderful artists, and also, you know, him having that experience of actually being directly there, you know, which was very special.
Just shortly, what do you think about boycott Israel, about this movement? I must say that I grew up in communist Czechoslovakia, and when the cure came in 1988, I think, because we were a very strict country, we were not like Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was like paradise for us. When I came first time in Makarska to small record shop, I had to go to toilets because I was so shocked that they have LPs there, and we didn't have Western music in shops, for example, and some people don't trust that it's true, but it's true. We had only Eastern European artists in radio, and there were few LPs like the best of ABBA, the best of Boney M in shops, but there were no Western music, no Beatles, for example, only early Beatles with Pete Sheridan, or I don't know the name. And so it was really crazy. But when the cure came in 1988, I was a little bit surprised, and I was scared that they will do something like they will make pink the regime to paint the regime to pink color. You know, that they will go to the president and blah blah blah. But they didn't do that. So it was like fresh air for us that the band played the show. There were many shows in Hungary in that time, and it was, for us, it was like a dream, and some people were traveling there, but it was not easy to travel to Budapest.
Well, I was going to say that because Laszlo Hegedűs put Queen on in '89.
Yeah.
But Laszlo was a bit of a smart character and had a Western partner, Tim Parsons. Tim Dowdle. And Laszlo would pay lip service to the government, but basically in order that he could get on with making money. And it was very smart. And Laszlo, the Hungarians, and I think probably Eastern Europe have got something to thank Hegedűs for, because he did bring a lot of Western music into Eastern Europe. So
yes.
Did he do The Cure? Was he part of that?
It was, I'm not sure, but it was in Prague, and we were like very happy that it happened. And it showed that maybe miracles are possible. So I have this in mind always when people speak about boycotting some country, for example, Israel, that from my perspective all depends on what you do there. If you play show, if you speak openly about human rights, if you do something for the society, I think it's great. If you if you are celebrating some dictators, it's a wrong way. For me, the example of this is Manic Street Preachers in Havana meeting with Fidel Castro and saying that this is the fantastic guy for me. So what do you think about this as you established Palestinian music export office? What do you think about boycotting Israel, about this campaign? Because you are uniting people. You are bringing.
Sure.
You know.
I mean, like I said, you know, Palestine Music Export is a non-political. You know, we only focus on the artists. You know, a lot of people's opinion is that BDS is a good thing to put this conditions on or the pressure on artists not to perform in Israel. Other people think it's not a good thing, you know. And we can look at South Africa and what happened there, you know, with the cultural boycott in South Africa in the 1980s, and yet Paul Simon broke the cultural boycott, but transformed South African music and the ability of South African music to, export itself to the world. Very different circumstances, though. It's an extremely difficult subject, but I don't really feel that I'm the right person to talk about that.
I mean, personally, I'm not currently a supporter of BDS, although sometimes it gets a bit, particularly on the cultural side. I think if bands are doing a show in Israel, I think they should very much look at trying to play a show in the West Bank, or even doing a show that I know there's a venue in Haifa which is actually Palestinian run. Well, try and play that venue, or even again do a second show. I think that's the way to do it, because I think
I do think any artists who go to Israel ought to go across the wall and go to Ramallah.
Yeah.
And go and insist that if you're going to, if we're going to play in Tel Aviv, that we should have the opportunity to play in Ramallah, or at least go and see it and go and experience it themselves.
Because how PMX actually became a reality was, and I was on that trip. We're going to this Israeli show, and so there's about 8 of us, or 7 or 8 of us. He said, "Yeah, we'll come, but we want to go and visit the West Bank." So the organizer arranged that. Because we were there, then it's sort of actually, okay, let's actually make this happen and do it. So I think you have to engage. I think it just winds. I mean, it's such a fraught situation, and I can see it from both sides. And unfortunately, it's dominated, if you like, by extremists on both sides. So, I suppose if you're going to summarise what should hopefully happen is you want to make Israelis feel safer and the Palestinians have more hope, and try and build a future on that. And just, boycotting just ups the ante. That's my feeling.
Do you have some questions to the... Great, because we have last 10 minutes, I think.
Cool, thank you. Carl, you mentioned an intimacy, which is important for you in venues. So I'd like to invite you all to one intimate show in the toilets, which is at 11 this evening. My band's playing. Thank you, but I actually have a question.
How many people can you fit into the toilet?
Well, I'm not inviting everybody. No. Everybody's invited, but we'll see about that.
Sounds like discrimination to me.
No. We can fit all, I believe that. It says 200 people on the webpage. I don't believe that, but we'll see. Anyway, the question. You obviously work with huge acts, huge artists, and so what is the strangest venue that you booked or did a gig for a huge name? And what is their opinion on that? Because, Carl, you said it's important for you, but is it really important for an artist to play in a small venue? Is it something different?
I'd like to just chip in there. I created a concert series for War Child, which is a charity trying to help kids in war zones get educated. And in 2004, started with the idea of putting on major artists playing in tiny little venues. And it took me a year before I could get the first artist to agree to do that, which was David Gray. And then once that was agreed, I had, within a 1 week period in 2004, we had The Cure, The Darkness, Amy Winehouse, Elbow, and like 30 other artists perform in the clubs that we owned at that time, which were called the Barfly Club in London. And then that eventually became, 10 years later, we brought it back, and now it's become a concert series to do with Brit's Week. It's the Brit's Week concert series. And the idea was, well, how can you make money out of having a major artist play in a tiny little venue unless you charge £500 a ticket? The idea was we did it as a lottery ticket. So people would buy a lottery ticket for £4, that would put their name in the hat, and then the 250 names to go into the club would be drawn out of the hat, and then they would be able to go. And I have to say, that was life transforming for me, for many of the artists. Oh, Pet Shop Boys was another one. I mean, you know, and since Coldplay, Florence and the Machine, Blur, you know, they've all done it. And they love it. You know, the major artists who normally would only play stadiums, going back to play in a tiny little club. I recently did it again to raise money for the Music Venues Trust, which is trying to save live music venues who were particularly badly affected by the pandemic. And we got the artists to play in the club where they first played. So Elbourne played in the Night and Day Cafe in Manchester, you know, but many, many thousands of people bought the lottery tickets to be at those shows. So that was a kind of a very special series of events that I've been very proud to be a part of.
We've actually got past to you.
Oh no. But I'm going to upset him now. Because most of the venues I've run have been large, although places like Glasgow and others had smaller halls where people played. But it was, I have to be honest, it was basically down to money. You know, and if somebody came to us and said that they wanted to book a hall for 10,000, and we said, well, the 10,000 isn't available, but we can do it for 2,000. No, we won't make enough money. And I'm a bit surprised, Stephen, that for War Child, the artists didn't do it for nothing. Or are you talking about...
They did do it for nothing.
Sorry, so is it just the cost you covered?
They didn't, yeah, exactly. So we just paid for the road crew and their rehearsal costs and their equipment costs. So they all perform for no fee.
Okay.
Yeah, and they want to do it. It's a, you know, I think it's a wonderful example of artists, you know, who really put themselves on the line to create some value for charity, you know, and a meaningful charity.
Well, that's what the Teenage Cancer Trust do, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But they do it at the Albert Hall.
Yeah. But talking about venues that the artists had comments about, there was one Paul McCartney, everything's vegetarian, and after a few weeks on the road it gets a bit boring. So the crew always tend to, those in the crew that aren't vegetarian always want an out. And we played Vienna football stadium there, the big stadium there. And when I first turned up and stuff was loading in, it's got a road that goes right the way around this stadium, and there's a fence, and then there's a park. And on where the backstage was, you walked out the backstage, and there was the road, and there was a fence, and on the other side was a sausage stall. So within 2 hours, the crew had taken one of the fence panels out and created a gate. So when McCartney and his crew turned up, they loved it. We didn't tell McCartney.
Yeah, I like very much this project you did in clubs, and I think that it's amazing example of how you can use power of artists for something really good and in perfect environment. And it was helpful for clubs, for War Child, and I think also for artists, for the society. Great project. And I think that the most interesting venue where you did something together was in Korea, the Demilitarized Zone Peace Train Festival.
Is that the DMZ?
DMZ, yes, festival. It was in the end of the rails from south to north.
Actually, I was with the last weekend in Brussels. I was with one of the people on the original trip. So at a conference or show, a really good festival called Zandari in Seoul, and there's a bunch of us did a tour. The nearest part of the DMZ is only about an hour's drive from Seoul. So you kind of do a tour. So there's a really rubbish amusement park, and you go up and you sort of look through telescopes at North Korea. And then you end up with this railway station, which is like brand new, that doesn't have any trains, obviously because it's next to the demilitarised zone. So by that stage, we'd started drinking soju, which is the national drink of Korea, and we were getting really bored. And because we were part of an organised tourist thing, we had to wait for, till I was like, okay, great, let's go back to the festival. And I was just going, I was just sitting there thinking, this is make a brilliant site for a festival, because you won't get anyone getting in free, because it's, all the fences and land mines and what have you. You could easily get 5,000 people indoors, because it's a real statement, this station, plus this huge car parks and things which just weren't being used. So get back to, and then on the way back, actually, already came up the name, Peace Train, because the Cat Steve's on, let's have it station, we could probably get a train to go to it. So get back and meet Dalsey and see, right, got to festival here. And then about sort of 6 months later, I was with Dalsey in, I think it was Taiwan, and said, did anything happen there? And he said, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, yeah, it looks like it's going to happen. Really? And it's, but it's not in that railway station, it's in a different one, because basically it's largely paid for by the mayor, well, unfortunately committed suicide, but the local prefecture or county. But it's, and so Stephen came on the sort of second when we actually found the site, and it's a fantastic site. It's one of the world's greatest festivals.
They took us round to see a whole bunch of different places, like, do you want to do the festival here? Do you want to do the festival? And it was amazing. And then, but the site that you originally spotted was the site that we
which is like, it's got a beautiful gorge running past it, where you can got whitewater rafting. It's got a fabulous hotel. It's got shops. It's really well suited.
And there's a train that literally goes from Seoul, like right.
Well, they do it. So actually, with the actual border, is there's you got the actual demilitarised. There's a sort of, I don't know, it's about 2 miles wide. But that you can't do anything in that, because it's something like 2 million landmines. But there's then a zone, a sort of military-controlled zone, where you can go in, but only within certain hours, and you have to obviously check in with the police. And so we do an event inside that, but it's for just about 200 people. And they always do an art thing at the ex-Communist Party headquarters, which happens to be in South Korea now, where lots and lots of people were killed and tortured. But so the actual festival site is about 5 miles from, I think. But they did actually run a train from Seoul with the mayor on it as well, all decorated up. And we did go to the end of the line there, which is where we did this sort of special, sort of art performance.
And then the main festival is like 20,000 people, like a big proper festival.
But obviously we've got no idea if it's going to happen. We hope it's going to happen again, but obviously again, COVID is, it's not right.
This is just reminding me, I was really fortunate enough to go to the wall in 1991 when it was done on the, what do you call it, between the two walls in Berlin. And that was an amazing thing, because the wall was still up on the eastern side, although they were allowing access, but you sat looking at the show, and then you look over the back and there's East Berlin, still getting on with life. That was a start. I mean, you were talking about, having an effect on things, and I'm sure that did. It was just unbelievable. And it was the Cheshire Fund, wasn't it, that did it? Group Captain Cheshire.
Yes, we are out of time now, so thank you very much for your examples. I want to end it with another beautiful example how the music can unite people, and it's Logan's work when he's coming touring with Manu Chao or with some other bands. He's always connecting Yugoslavia to one bus, because he has tour manager from one country and sound engineer from another one, etc., etc. And he's always saying that this is my united Yugoslavia again with this team. So thanks to Login for many inspirations and for this conference. And thank you for joining this panel, and thank you for listening this panel. Enjoy the conference.
Thank you.